Arteta has beaten Enzo Maresca in the FA Community Shield. There was a whooping 3-0. Manchester City never stood a chance. It is a warning to Enzo Maresca and the Manchester City board that this is how the team is going to look in the absence of Rodrigo Cascante. Barcelona has completed the signing of Rodrigo in a 75 million euros, which amounts to 64.1 million pounds. I told you that Barcelona couldn't have gone beyond 70 million pounds, and so they've secured the signing of Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante. Al Hilal is in advanced conversation to sign Chelsea winger Pedro Neto. We all know that Chelsea has brought in a lot of players, and it's likely to affect the game time of Pedro Neto. We are hearing far more details beyond what we already know as far as this deal is concerned. Victor Osimhen is being pursued by Arsenal, the Gunners, after winning the FA Community Shield. They noticed that they have a problem. They have a perennial problem since last season, which is the attack, to manage to get goals as far as the attack is concerned. So now in this summer, they are trying as much as possible to strengthen the attack. We have more on that for you. But let me start from Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo, who is in his last year, okay, who has one more year on his contract with Al Nassr, he has confirmed that it is likely this will be his last year in football. You know, after his marriage with Georgina Rodriguez, he was speaking to Vogue, and then they asked him about his career, what the future holds for him. And according to Cristiano Ronaldo, he's likely to retire after this year, but he's not too sure. He would have to really think about it and confirm. He says that a lot. You know, after the World Cup, when they asked him whether this was going to be his last World Cup, he said that he would think about it. He would take a decision with a cool head, a calmer head. You understand? Yes, he says this a lot of time. When journalists ask him what he thinks is going to happen, he finds a way to keep the issue in suspense. But my issue is that Lionel Messi confirmed to us within this week, you know, Messi lost his dad. My condolences to him and the family. All of us here in ASK Morgan, we have him in our thoughts and we pray for him. We pray God gives him strength to go through this period. Messi said that now that his father is not alive, he is considering not playing, and very soon he may have to decide not to play. Very soon, about just within a week, Cristiano Ronaldo also confirms to us that this could be his last year playing football. There seems to be something unique about these two guys, that no matter what happens, they try to find something in common in every situation. Is it not mind-baffling that Lionel Messi says he's considering ending his career? Then Ronaldo also comes to tell us that this is likely to be his last year in football. And so I feel both players always, I think they were just created to come and compete among each other. And I think that is just going to be it. Barcelona has completed the signing of João Cancelo from Al Hilal. Now, João Cancelo will be traveling in to complete his medicals at Barcelona. And already he's a player who has played for Barcelona. He completed last season at Barcelona. And so I don't think the medicals will be any complex thing that Barca do not already know. They are already aware of his medical situation. And so we can confirm that he's a Barcelona player from this point in time. I told you that it was based on a strict budget calculation that had delayed. But once they knew how much Rodri would cost, it was easy to complete everything with Al Hilal and bring the player in, because they had already agreed personal terms with João Cancelo long ago. Barca have signed João Cancelo, and just yesterday evening they have completed the signing of Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante. And we all know that Rodri made it clear that he wanted to play Barcelona, and I've told you that Rodri will join Barcelona no matter what. It is just a matter of time and a matter of agreeing to what the amount would be between the two football clubs. Now, they first sent a bid of 45 million euros, which was rejected. Then they worked on a second bid, which was 60 million euros, and was rejected. On Saturday, they sent a bid of 70 million euros. You know, I told you that they were preparing a third bid. So Deco had sent a bid of 70 million euros, and it was also rejected because 70 million euros is very shy of the 80 million they wanted. Manchester City wanted. And so just on Sunday, just yesterday, they had to quickly wrap it up and then end the saga by submitting a 75 million euros. And you see, there was constant progress. We kept noticing that the gap between the two teams kept on closing. And when it happens that way, it is easy to for the deal to happen, because when two teams are negotiating and then the gap is closing, it means progress. Unlike the Julian Alvarez deal, where the gap is not closing. Barca says 100 million, they say 500 million, go and trigger his buyout clause. And so you do not know what to do. Maybe if you are Barcelona, your valuation of the player could be around 150 million. But when they tell you that go and trigger an exorbitant buyout clause, you are unable to negotiate. You are unable to go further and then reach an agreement with the football club. And that is why the deal has been hampered here, heavily, and it has hindered the deal from happening. I do not think the deal is really possible at this point in time. And so Barcelona have also identified another player who could be signed in the stead of Julian Alvarez. But on Rodri, if anybody tell you that Barcelona do not need Rodri, it is not true. There is no single player that Barcelona need more than Rodri. This is the reason. Barcelona has 4 flat deep line playmakers. They have Frankie de Jong, they have Marc Casado, they have Marc Bernal, and of course Pedri. Now, even the issue with Pedri is that Pedri was an attacking midfielder until he was converted to a deep line playmaker. And for that matter, even without that conversion, they would have been short of one in that particular position. But there are 4 flat central midfielders, which I agree makes sense, 2 for each position, right? But unfortunately, their availability has been very questionable. Marc Casado has been on and off for some of the time, but Frankie de Jong particularly has been very, very unavailable, which reduces the number and the quality substantially, because a player like Frankie de Jong has been the pivot. He's the register of the team. He's the one that holds the midfield. And every time he's unavailable, it affects the team. It puts enormous workload on Pedri. And so the team consciously had to work on a way to get Frankie available or get somebody who is available. We've seen it very often that players like Eric Garcia, Christensen will be featured in the middle for Barcelona. But that has come to an end. All of that has come to an end. They are no longer going to play these defenders in central areas again, because then, now that they've secured Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, I've already done a video to explain to you why Rodri chose Barcelona. The style of play, not so different from the Pep Guardiola style. The players that he play with, the players that he play with in the national team, most of them are in Barcelona. And also his fitness and what the system would demand from him, he will be able to execute the role in Barcelona perfectly without any stress than to play for Jose Mourinho, where you would have to actually do defensive midfield work. And so, weighing the two, he has opted to join Barcelona, and we wish him very well. I'm sure it's going to work out perfectly for him. He's not somebody who gets injured easily, but it is something that he tore the ACL, and that made him sit on the sidelines for a very long time. And for most players, whenever they return from ACL, they go on subsequent injuries frequently. But fortunately for Rodri, upon his return from his ACL, he's not been injured that much, and that makes him very different from the kind of players who usually get ACL. I am hopeful that he's not going to end up like Frankie de Jong, who will be injured more times in in Barcelona. Now, what does this mean for Frankie de Jong? We all know Frankie has a deteriorated relationship with Frankie de Jong because already he has issues with the manager, and the manager is not even happy with the way he's managing his fitness. You understand? For a player who you rely on heavily in midfield to be unavailable for the most part of the season, it is very detrimental to the entire project, the entire season. You understand? And so no proper coach who is planning very well into a season would want to rely on a player like Frankie de Jong. But all of those technical issues aside, the young man has an issue. There's a rift between him and his manager. And once they've secured Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, I smell doom for player Frankie de Jong in Barcelona. I will not be shocked if he returns by November, and then probably by January they are able to sell him. I will not be shocked. I will not be shocked at all, because it looks like that is exactly what they are trying to do. Now, Barcelona, I think Deco is giving up on the conversation for Julian Alvarez, and so they've identified a certain Luis Suarez from the Portuguese league to bring him in. Now, his release clause is 80 million euros, and Barca cannot cough out 80 million euros right now. But when you look at the style of play, he's the perfect guy to give you to lead the attack from Barcelona. He has flair. He will be able to play like Julian Alvarez. He is able to contribute to the build-up, to add up to the play. Secondly, he's also very good at pressing. He could lead the press effortlessly. And then thirdly, he's good with goals. He's very good with goals. He's able to convert opportunities easily. And then, of course, he's able to create chances as well. So even in tough games when the team is difficult to beat, he single-handedly can create something out of nothing and get his team to win. And that is why Hansi Flick needs him in Barcelona. But they have refused to negotiate with Barcelona. They do not want to negotiate with Barcelona. They don't want to listen to the offers. Then if Barcelona is interested, all they have to do is trigger his release clause for 80 million euros. And 80 million euros for such a player will be detrimental to them. But let's not forget that last season, Arsenal bought Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon for in excess of 80 million euros and 75 million pounds. You understand me? And so that has become the standard. But even that year, Victor Gyökeres had scored about 52 goals to merit that hefty amount. However, Luis Suarez has not scored up to 52 goals, but he can guarantee Barcelona 20 to 25 goals in a season, and that is a massive boost if Barcelona get him up front. And so the race is on. I'm looking forward to seeing how Deco is going to pull this off. He has not disappointed Barcelona fans so far as this transfer window is concerned. He's delivered a lot. He's brought in João Cancelo. He brought in Karim Adeyemi, and the kind of players he spots, the way he spots his players is very, very spot on. He looks at your contract length. He looks at your value, how much the club you are from is likely to take, and then he plays on the situation perfectly to get you to get the deal done. And so Deco has been doing so good. What is left is for him to secure a striker, and now the cat and mouse chase is on between the two clubs on how to secure the signature of Luis Suarez to come to the Camp Nou. Now, Pedro Neto could leave Chelsea. He's been linked with Arsenal, Manchester City. But what we are hearing is that he has completed personal terms. He has agreed to personal terms with Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. So he could be heading to Saudi Arabia after just 2 seasons with Chelsea. After just 3 seasons with Chelsea, he could be heading to Saudi Arabia. He's not a player who is able to give you a lot of goals. And I think that is why Xabi Alonso does not fancy the player in the squad like that. That is why he's brought in Morgan Rogers, who is able to rack up numbers. And we have a player like Kopama, who is full of numbers season in, season out. And then he's brought in players like Giovanni Quenda and co. We have William Esteva and co. to play. Now, you realize that Pedro Neto is very different from the kind of wingers in Chelsea. For example, he is direct, pacey, and straightforward. He does not add goals. He doesn't have numbers. It is just the work rate to carry the ball forward. Xabi Alonso doesn't also need such players. He likes the players who have the flair and can also deliver numbers. And so Xabi Alonso is looking at these two things. Unfortunately, Pedro Neto doesn't have these. That is why the likes of William Esteva will beat him to the skill. The likes of Giovanni Quenda will beat him to directness and effectiveness. Kopama and Morgan Rogers will also beat him to the numbers game to bring results. And so it looks like he's not going to get the minutes he deserves or he wants in Chelsea. And so the best option for the young man is to explore moves elsewhere. We were shocked when we heard that Manchester City was looking at spending 81 million for Pedro Neto. But now that he has agreed personal terms with Al Hilal, it looks like he's certain on leaving Chelsea. Now Al Hilal is ready to pay 60 million euros for the player, which is around 51 million pounds or so. Chelsea signed him for 54 million pounds, and so they will take it like that. They will take the 3 million pounds less of how much they invested as the amount for his 13 goals in 103 games that he has given the football club. And for me, this is going to be a very excellent business for Chelsea. However, I'm shocked that if Manchester City was asked to pay 81 million, but then if Al Hilal can raise 51 million and get the deal done, I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I would investigate it and see what really is happening. For all you know, Saudi people are giving Chelsea some different investment contracts, some sponsorship contracts elsewhere, because it doesn't make any sense to demand 81 million from Manchester City and be willing to accept 60 million euros. It doesn't make any sense. Arteta has won the FA Community Shield back to back. Congratulations to him. But we all know that last season, the troubles Arsenal faced were in the attack. You realize that their defense was solid. Their defense was rock solid. It was able to hold the fort. In fact, they won the league because of the strength of their defense. Fortunately, the attack wasn't paying off. At a point in time, defenders had to come and score. At a point in time, Mikel Merino had to show up and do magic for the entire team. Now, the challenge is that in this summer, they are trying to solve that particular problem and fix the attack. Now, Napoli is keen on signing Gabriel Jesus away from Arsenal. What it means is that there's going to be a huge vacuum as far as the attack is concerned. We all know they have Kai Havertz, they have Victor Gyökeres as the central men. However, the numbers of these two players are not so much convincing to Mikel Arteta, and he feels that there are too many games than to rely on just these two players. And so Victor Osimhen came into the conversation, but Galatasaray's president, Dursun Özbek, he has condemned the issues that he's never going to sell the player. Now, what makes it difficult for Arsenal is that they received an offer from Saudi, 130 million euros for Victor Osimhen, and they refused to sell him. So when the president says that, well, they are not going to sell, regardless of anything, he has the track record to back the attitude to get us to believe that indeed they are not going to sell, because they received 130 million offer and they rejected it. How much will Arsenal raise for Victor Osimhen? You get me? How much will Arsenal raise for Victor Osimhen? You understand me? And so it is a very difficult conversation for Arsenal. But when you look at Arteta's team, the moment they secure Victor Osimhen, the team will be set. The team will be set. They will terrorize teams, especially in Champions League and in the Premier League. They are going to terrorize teams. They'll become difficult to beat because with that rock solid defense, now they have an attack that can score out of nothing. And so that makes it very difficult. But the advantage for Arsenal in getting the deal done is that Galatasaray had shown interest in Gabriel Martinelli and then Ethan Nwaneri. And then Martinelli confirmed to us that he wasn't interested in joining the Turkish league as at then. And so Galatasaray is off the table. But Ethan Nwaneri, he's searching for clubs in Europe. But Galatasaray is on the table. If he finds a better club in one of the top 5 leagues in the world, maybe he would probably stay there and not go to Galatasaray. But if he doesn't get any club to sign him up, he's likely going to join Galatasaray. And for me, Arsenal could use that as a leverage to negotiate for Victor Osimhen very, very well. Okay, Arsenal could use that as a leverage to negotiate and get the player to sign. However, how much Galatasaray will take is the problem, because like I just said about Barcelona and then Julian Alvarez and Atletico Madrid, if you are negotiating and then the team you are negotiating with doesn't want to negotiate, it makes the job extremely difficult. But if the team is cooperating, it makes the job easy. Once Galatasaray is not interested in negotiating with you, it makes the conversation cumbersome for you and so much sophisticated. I think that Arsenal should be preparing a backup plan as far as this signing is concerned. If they are able to get this player, it will be superb. It would change the face of the attack, because then they are prolific on the right. Christos Cholis have shown us that the left wing could be very, very solid and very productive. Now what we need is to have a situation where we have a center man who's dangerous and can pull up the goals as and when it is needed. Thank you so much for staying with us. This has been an ASK Morgan production. We will come your way again when we have more. Please like the video, follow us, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, subscribe on YouTube. Go to the comment section and tell us what you think about our work. And thank you so much for listening to us.